The first light of dawn painted the valley in pale shades of orange and pink. Leora stood at the edge of the ridge, her eyes scanning the camp below. The prisoners she had been training were ready, alert and determined. Today the plan would move from preparation to action. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the day they would risk everything for freedom. Kale moved beside her, calm and precise. "Remember," he whispered, "timing is everything. The guards are predictable, but we cannot assume they will be blind to everything. Follow the plan, trust each other, and stay focused." Leora nodded. Her heart pounded, but the fear that had gripped her for so many years had transformed into determination. She was no longer just surviving, and today she would prove it. From their vantage point, they could see the guards beginning their morning rounds. Some carried supplies, others checked the chains and cages, while a few patrolled the perimeter. Leora had studied these patterns for days, memorizing every route, every timing, every weakness. Kale had helped her refine the strategy, adding distractions and backup plans to cover every possibility. "Move," Leora whispered, signaling the first group of prisoners. They slipped from the shadows, moving toward the supply carts as planned. Their steps were silent, careful, yet full of a quiet determination. Leora's heart swelled with pride. These were not frightened slaves anymore. They were people reclaiming their courage. Kale activated a small device he carried, sending a controlled flash of light toward a cluster of guards near the central gate. They stumbled, blinking against the sudden brightness, and for a moment, chaos spread. Leora's group took advantage of it, slipping past undetected. Other prisoners followed, each group moving with increasing confidence, their whispers of encouragement carrying silently through the camp. Corvax, however, was quick to react. "What is happening?" he roared. "Find them. Stop them at once." The guards scrambled, but Leora had anticipated this. She had divided the prisoners into smaller teams, each with a specific route and objective. Some moved toward the hidden cliffs, others toward the supply paths, and a few stayed behind to create minor distractions. Every move was calculated, every action designed to confuse and slow the warlord's forces. As they neared the cliffs, Leora felt a surge of adrenaline. The drop was steep, the path narrow, but freedom lay below. She guided the first group down carefully, checking every foothold, ensuring no one slipped. Kale assisted, his steady hands and calm instructions giving confidence to those who trembled with fear. Step by step, they descended, the valley opening before them like a promise of life beyond chains. Suddenly, a shout echoed from the camp above. One of the guards had spotted a small group moving along the supply path. Panic threatened to rise, but Leora's voice cut through it. "Stay calm. Follow the path. Don't run blindly." Her words were firm, full of authority, yet carried reassurance. The prisoners obeyed, their trust in her growing with every step. The guards pursued. But Leora and Kale had prepared for this. They led the prisoners through hidden trails, twisted paths, and overgrown brush that the guards could not navigate quickly. The chase became a test of strategy, not just speed. Each obstacle slowed the warlord's forces while the prisoners moved closer to safety at one point. Corvax himself appeared at the edge of the ridge, his massive form towering over the camp. He shouted orders, swinging his staff with authority. But even he could not predict the clever diversions Leora had orchestrated. Smoke, light, and sound confused the guards, allowing the prisoners to pass, while Corvax raged impotently. Leora paused briefly, looking back at the camp. She saw her friends, her people, moving with courage and determination she had never seen before. Their chains were no longer just physical, they were breaking from fear and doubt. Every step forward was a victory, not only over the warlord's authority, but over the years of oppression they had endured. Kale caught her gaze. "You've done this," he said softly. "They trust you, and they follow you because of who you are." Leora felt a swell of pride, but she knew the danger was far from over. The cliffs were steep, and the path to true safety lay beyond them. Over the rugged terrain and into the forests where Corvax's reach was limited, one misstep could undo everything. "Keep moving," she instructed, her voice calm but commanding. "We are almost there. Stay together and do not let fear guide you." The prisoners obeyed, moving in careful formation. The descent was grueling, but each step brought them closer to the valley below. Leora's heart raced with every sound, every rustle in the bushes, every shout from the camp above. Yet she remained focused, guiding her people with a combination of authority, encouragement, and reassurance. Finally, they reached the forest. The dense trees hid them from the guards, and the sounds of the camp faded behind them. For a brief moment, relief washed over Leora. They had survived the climb, evaded the patrols, and made it beyond immediate danger. But she knew this was only the beginning. Corvax would not give up easily as they moved deeper into the forest. Leora stopped to take stock. "We need to rest," she said. "Even the strongest need a moment to recover. Kale, can you help set up a safe place?" Kale nodded, using his knowledge of terrain and survival to find a hidden grove. There, they could rest, tend to minor injuries, and plan the next stage of their journey. Leora looked at the prisoners, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the moons, and felt a deep sense of connection. These were not just people she was guiding, they were her friends, her allies, her family. That night, around a small fire, Leora spoke to them. "You have all been brave," she said. "Today, you risked everything for your freedom. But tomorrow, we must continue. Corvax will not stop until he finds us. We must stay strong, stay smart, and stay together." One of the prisoners, a young Varkelian woman named Sira, looked at her with wide eyes. "How did you find courage?" she asked. "I have lived in fear all my life. I do not know if I can be as brave as you." Leora smiled gently. "Courage is not about never feeling fear," she said. "It is about moving forward even when you are afraid. Today, you were brave, and tomorrow you will be braver still." Kale nodded in agreement. "Leora has taught you something important. Freedom requires courage, but it also requires trust in yourself and in each other. That is why we succeeded today, and that is why we will succeed again." The night passed quietly, though tension lingered. Leora could not sleep fully. Her mind was filled with plans and possibilities. She knew the final escape would require more than courage. It would require careful timing, clever diversions, and complete trust among the group. She also knew that Corvax would be preparing. The warlord would strike back with everything he had, and they must be ready. The next morning, they moved out. Leora led the prisoners through the forest, using hidden paths she had memorized. Monitored the perimeter from a distance. The journey was exhausting. But each step forward reinforced the truth they had all begun to believe. Freedom was possible. Suddenly, a troll appeared ahead, cutting across their path. The prisoners froze, panic rising. Leora acted quickly. "Split into smaller groups," she instructed. "We will regroup at the clearing beyond the hill. Follow my lead." Her voice was calm, but every word carried authority. The prisoners obeyed, scattering into smaller, manageable groups. Leora and Kale created diversions, throwing rocks to mislead the guards, and using the forest to obscure their movements. Step by step, the patrol was evaded. By midday, they reached the clearing. Leora counted the prisoners. Everyone had made it. Relief and joy washed over her. They were still free, still moving toward safety. But as she looked back at the distant cliffs, she knew the warlord had not given up. Corvax's shadow loomed in her mind, a reminder that their journey was far from over. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. "You have led them well," he said. "Tomorrow, we will reach the human ship. That is where true safety begins. But for now, celebrate this victory. You have proven that courage and strategy can overcome fear and oppression." Leora nodded, a small smile touching her lips. She allowed herself a moment to feel proud, to feel strong, and to feel the taste of freedom. She knew challenges lay ahead. But she also knew that she and her people had grown stronger than any chains or guards could contain. As the sun set, casting golden light across the forest, Leora looked at the prisoners. Their faces reflected hope, courage, and determination. They were no longer mere survivors. They were rebels, fighters, and dreamers. and she knew that with Kale's guidance and their collective strength, they would see freedom fully realized. The journey to the human ship would be dangerous, but tonight they had triumphed. And in that moment, Leora felt the true meaning of liberation. Not just escaping chains, but reclaiming courage, trust, and hope. The forest was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant call of alien birds. Leora moved at the front, leading the small group of prisoners through the dense undergrowth. Kale followed close behind, eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of pursuit. The human ship was their goal, their promise of true safety. And it was just beyond the hills that rose ahead. The prisoners had grown stronger over the days. Their fear had not vanished, but courage had replaced despair. Each step was taken with purpose, each glance around the forest a careful measure of vigilance. Leora felt pride swelling in her chest. These people had trusted her, learned from her, and fought alongside her. She knew that without their combined courage, this journey would have been impossible. "We are close," Kale whispered. "The hills ahead lead to the clearing where the ship landed. Stay alert, but do not panic." Leora nodded. She had been waiting for this moment, imagining it in countless dreams during the long years of oppression. Freedom had always seemed distant, impossible, yet here it was, tangible. Within reach, as they approached the first hill, a sudden movement in the trees ahead froze the group. Leora's heart skipped a beat. Guards of patrol had found their trail. They had grown careless in their confidence. And now Korvax's forces were closing in. "Split into two groups," Leora ordered, her voice firm and calm. "I will lead the larger group toward the ship. Kale will take the other and create a diversion. Move quickly and quietly." The prisoners obeyed, scattering into the designated paths. Leora's hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. Every decision she made now could save lives or cost them. She kept her eyes forward, focusing on the hills and the clearing beyond. Meanwhile, Kale moved to intercept the patrol, using his knowledge of the terrain to create obstacles. He toppled a small pile of rocks to block their path and tossed glowing devices that emitted blinding light. The guards stumbled, confused, giving the prisoners more time to advance. Kale smiled faintly as he heard Leora's group moving swiftly ahead. The human had always believed in strategy over brute force, and today it was paying off. Leora led the group up the final slope, her eyes catching the glint of metal in the distance. The human ship gleamed in the sunlight just beyond a small clearing. Relief surged through her, but she did not allow herself to slow. Korvax's patrols were still out there, and the clearing was only partially covered by trees. Every step had to be careful. "Keep moving," she whispered. "We are almost there. Do not stop until you reach the ship." The prisoners moved silently, their trust in her unshakable. They had seen her courage, her wisdom, and her determination. They believed in her, and that belief carried them forward like a shield against fear. Suddenly, a shout rang out from the camp below. Leora's heart froze. Korvax had discovered their escape. The warlord's massive form appeared at the edge of the forest, bellowing orders. Guards surged forward, weapons drawn, ready to stop them by force. "Run!" Leora shouted. "To the ship! Do not look back!" The prisoners surged forward, adrenaline driving them as they sprinted across the forest floor. Leora's lungs burned, her legs ached, but she did not falter. She was leading her people, guiding them to the freedom they had only dreamed of. Kale appeared beside her, pulling a small device from his belt. "Cover the clearing," he shouted. He activated it, sending a series of blinding flashes and loud sounds that confused the approaching guards. The human ship's engines roared to life, adding to the chaos. Leora reached the edge of the clearing first. The ramp of the ship was extended, and several of the prisoners scrambled aboard, helped by Kale and the crew. Leora stayed at the rear, turning to see the guards closing in. Her chest tightened, but her eyes burned with determination. She would not let fear stop her, not now. One guard lunged at her, but Leora sidestepped, using her agility and knowledge of the terrain to avoid capture. Another guard swung a staff toward her, but Kale intercepted, knocking it aside with precise timing. Leora felt a rush of gratitude and relief. Together, they were unstoppable. Step by step, the group reached the ship's ramp. Leora turned to see Corvax at the edge of the clearing, his massive figure silhouetted against the rising sun. He roared in anger, raising his staff as if to strike. But the human ship lifted off the ground with a powerful roar, forcing him to step back. The prisoners cheered, voices trembling with joy and disbelief. Leora climbed aboard, helping the last few prisoners up the ramp. Her legs shook from exhaustion, her body aching from the climb and the flight, but her spirit soared. She had led them to freedom. The human who had saved her life had not only guided her physically, but had awakened something stronger. Inside her, a belief in her own strength, courage, and leadership. As the ship ascended into the sky, Leora looked down at the forest and the distant camp. The chains, the oppression, and the cruelty of Corvax's rule were behind them. The prisoners looked at each other, their eyes shining with tears of joy, relief, and newfound hope. Leora felt her chest tighten as she realized that freedom was not just about escaping it was about reclaiming life, dignity, and courage. Kale approached her, his expression calm but proud. "You led them," he said softly. "You inspired them. Today they followed you because you showed them what was possible." Leora smiled, exhaustion and joy mingling in her heart. "I only led them," she said, "because you gave me the chance to believe it was possible." The ship moved swiftly through the atmosphere, leaving the planet behind. Below, the landscape shrank into distance, the mountains, cliffs, and forests fading beneath the clouds. Leora felt a weight lift from her shoulders, a weight she had carried for years, the burden of fear, chains, and oppression. She had survived, she had fought, and she had led others to safety. The prisoners began settling into the ship's lower decks, finding food, water, and rest for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Leora walked among them, offering quiet encouragement, listening to their stories and witnessing the transformation in their faces. They were no longer broken, no longer afraid, they were free. That evening, as the stars filled the sky, Leora stood at the observation deck with Kale. She gazed at the infinite expanse, feeling both small and powerful. The universe stretched before her, full of possibilities she had never imagined. "Where will we go now?" she asked. Kale smiled faintly. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere far from Corvax and his tyranny. But more importantly, somewhere where you can help others who are suffering as you once did." "Your journey does not end with freedom, it begins there," Leora nodded. She realized that freedom was not just a destination, it was a responsibility. She had escaped the chains, but now she had the power and courage to help others escape as well. She thought of the countless prisoners who had not made it, who were still trapped under oppression. She would not forget them. She would fight to give them the chance she had been given. The ship continued through space, carrying the liberated prisoners to safety. Leora moved through the decks, watching as they laughed, shared stories, and began to dream again. Their spirits had been broken, but now they were whole. And in the center of it all, Leora felt a quiet strength grow within her. Her strength born not just from survival, but from courage, leadership, and hope. As the moons of distant planets shone through the ship's windows, Leora knew she had been changed forever. She was no longer the frightened, chained girl she had been on Varkle 9. She was a leader, a symbol of courage, and a witness to the power of hope. And beside her, Kale, the human who had risked everything to free her, remained a steady presence, proof that even in the darkest worlds, light could be found. For the first time in her life, Leora allowed herself to believe fully in the future. She had faced fear, endured pain, and led others through unimaginable danger. And now, she was free. Truly free. The stars stretched infinitely ahead, and Leora felt the thrill of possibility. She did not know what challenges awaited them next. But she knew one thing with certainty. She would face them with courage, wisdom, and hope. She had survived chains and oppression, and nothing could hold her back again. The journey of liberation had ended. But the journey of life and leadership had only just begun, and for Leora, The girl who had once been chained like an animal. The universe now stretched wide with endless possibilities. The stars outside the viewport shimmered like scattered diamonds. Inside the small human scout ship, Kale adjusted the controls and leaned forward, studying the navigation readouts. He had traveled far across the galaxy, following rumors of unrest in the alien kingdom of Varial, a world known for its elite royal guards and cunning political schemes. The planet's surface below glowed with soft amber lights, evidence of a civilization both advanced and careful about who approached its borders. Kale's eyes narrowed as he saw the city sprawling below him. Towers rose like jagged teeth, and roads wound between them like rivers of metal. The city was alive but not chaotic. Everything moved with precision. Kale had trained for years in observation, survival, and strategy. He had learned to read subtle movements, to notice what others overlooked. And here on Varial, his skills would be tested more than ever. He activated the landing sequence, and the ship hummed softly as it descended. The city's outer perimeter was monitored by hovering drones. Kale watched them carefully, timing their patrol patterns. He had come here for one reason: to protect someone who had no idea she needed saving. On the highest balcony of the central palace, Princess Leora of Varial stood, her eyes fixed on the horizon. She had never seen a human before, and few aliens had. Her people were proud and careful. Humans were often described as unpredictable, fragile, and reckless. Yet Leora had a strange sense that something was about to change. She couldn't explain it, but a subtle disturbance in the city's energy field told her that something or someone was coming. Below, Kale's ship hovered silently. He engaged the cloaking field, making the vessel almost invisible to the city's sensors. He exited the ship in a small, nimble drop pod designed to move quickly through tight spaces. Gravity here was slightly stronger than on Earth, but Kale adjusted easily. He landed near a quiet alleyway, not far from the palace, the city's guards unaware of his presence. As he moved, Kale observed the patrols carefully. The guards were tall, armored, and disciplined. Their weapons glimmered with a soft blue energy, but Kale had studied them. He knew their movements, their habits, the micro-delays that revealed their thinking. He smiled faintly. Humans were often underestimated, and that was their advantage. Meanwhile, inside the palace, Leora spoke to her chief advisor, a seasoned alien named Varric. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "Something is not right tonight." Varric's eyes narrowed. "Your Highness, all sensors show the perimeter is secure. The council is calm. Nothing seems unusual." Leora shook her head. "I don't trust sensors alone. My instincts tell me there's a presence, a watcher. Someone is coming." Varric hesitated, then bowed slightly. "If you wish, I can increase the guard rotations." "Do it," Leora said, her voice firm but calm. "And keep this quiet. I don't want panic among the people." Back in the alley, Kale moved like a shadow. He climbed walls, ducked behind vehicles, and avoided cameras. His mission was clear: reach the palace, assess the situation, and be ready to act if danger approached the princess. He did not know much about her, but he understood one thing: the threat here was real. And humans had a way of seeing things others could not. He paused near a patrol checkpoint. 2 guards passed, their eyes scanning the streets. Kale's heartbeat remained steady. He had been in situations far more dangerous, with predators and soldiers alike. These guards, though trained and vigilant, were predictable. One moved slightly slower, the other slightly faster. Kale calculated the timing, waited for the perfect moment, and slipped past unnoticed. Inside the palace, Leora moved gracefully through the corridors. Her dress shimmered softly under the light, a symbol of both royalty and strength. Even with her elegance, she carried a readiness that her people admired. Her senses were heightened, her mind alert. She felt the city's rhythm, the flow of energy through the walls, and the subtle shifts that indicated someone or something was near. She reached the council chamber and spoke quietly with Varric. "I want all doors monitored. No one leaves or enters without my knowledge. Something is coming, and I will not be caught unaware." Varric nodded. "As you wish, Your Highness. But may I remind you, your presence is enough to command respect." Perhaps caution is unnecessary. Leora smiled faintly. Caution is never unnecessary, Varric. Remember that. Meanwhile, Kale approached the palace gates. He studied the guards, the energy barriers, and the hidden sensors. Most humans would have seen this as an impossible task, but Kale was no ordinary human. His mind worked differently. He saw paths where none seemed to exist, opportunities where others saw danger. He tapped into his portable hacking device, briefly disrupting a small sensor field to create a safe passage. The palace gates loomed closer. Kale's muscles tensed, ready for any sudden movement. The guards here were the elite, chosen for their loyalty and skill. But Kale had faced elite before. What set humans apart was not strength alone, it was anticipation. He could predict actions before they happened. And tonight, that ability was the key to survival. Inside, Leora sensed a shift. A brief flicker in the energy fields, a movement too subtle for the cameras, told her something had changed. Her instincts screamed that someone was in the city who did not belong, someone who would alter the course of events. She moved toward the balcony again, peering into the streets below. Kale paused near the outer palace walls. He watched the shadows, the subtle reflections on glass, and the tiniest flickers of movement. He calculated distances, guard rotations, and potential threats. Then, with quiet precision, he slipped past the outer defenses. Moving closer to the central building where the princess waited, suddenly, one of the guards near the main gate turned sharply. Kale froze, blending into the darkness. The guard scanned the area, sensing only the usual city noises. Kale's heart rate remained steady. Humans had nerves of steel when necessary. He waited for the guard to move, then continued, each step deliberate. Each motion calculated. As he reached the palace walls, Kale paused to assess the situation inside. The council chamber doors were slightly ajar, and the glow of the interior lights revealed movement within. Leora was there, speaking quietly with Varric. Kale could see her gestures, her expressions, subtle signs of concern and alertness. He smiled faintly. She was sharp, intelligent, aware of danger, even without knowing its source. That made his task easier. He moved along the shadows, climbing to a higher vantage point. From there, he could see the central courtyard. The guards stationed at every corner, and the patrol drones hovering silently. His mind worked quickly, formulating a plan. One wrong move could expose him, but hesitation was not an option. Back inside, Leora sensed a presence closer than ever before. She turned, instinctively scanning the room, and for a brief moment, she felt the connection. Someone was observing not with hostility, but with purpose. Her eyes narrowed. Whoever this human was, he was not like other intruders. He had knowledge, skill, and perhaps a reason to be here beyond mere chaos. Kale paused at the edge of the roof, observing the patterns below. His training told him the guards' routines, their weak points, and the blind spots in their surveillance. He calculated the safest path to the inner chambers, where the princess might be at risk. Every step from here required precision, patience, and timing. The night deepened. Lights reflected off the glass surfaces, shadows shifted, and the city continued its quiet rhythm. Kale moved like a shadow among shadows, his mission clear. He was here for the princess, though neither of them fully understood the stakes yet, as he prepared to make his next move. Leora's voice echoed softly through the halls. "I will not be caught unawares," she whispered to herself. A promise to her people, and perhaps to the unknown human, who now navigated the palace grounds with silent purpose. Kale smiled faintly. He had arrived unnoticed. The game had begun. And in this city of vigilance, his instincts were sharper than any sensor, his awareness deeper than any guard's training. The human had reached the palisade scene, unchallenged, but fully prepared for what was to come. The first step of the mission was complete. The night held many dangers, but Kale's presence here marked a turning point. The princess, the palace, and the conspiracies hidden within the walls would soon collide with a force no one expected. And all of it began with one human, walking silently through a city that underestimated him at every turn. The palace night was quiet, but the calm was deceptive. Hidden in the shadows, Kale observed every guard, every council member, and the subtle energy shifts in the room. He had spent hours analyzing the city's patterns, the palace's security, and the royal protocols. Nothing had gone unnoticed. And now, the moment of truth was arriving. Inside the council chamber, Princess Leora stood near the center of the room, her posture calm but alert. She sensed movement outside the doors, a small, calculated disturbance in the palace's energy. Her instincts screamed that danger was close. She gestured subtly to her guards, signaling them to prepare without alarming the council. At the same time, Kale noticed unusual movements among the palace staff. Two officials, whom he had seen earlier during the council meetings, exchanged glances and moved toward a hidden entrance. Their body language betrayed them. They were not loyal, not here for diplomacy. They carried concealed devices that could incapacitate anyone in the room. Kale's eyes narrowed. The ambush had begun. One of the princess's elite guards, tall and heavily armored, noticed a slight shadow flicker near the chamber's entrance. His hand instinctively moved to his weapon. "Intruder," he shouted, stepping forward with authority, trying to block the path. Kale was already ready. He did not wait. Humans were trained to anticipate reactions, not just respond to them. With a swift, precise movement, Kale disarmed the guard before he could raise his weapon fully. The energy weapon clattered to the floor. Kale held the guard in a controlled stance, preventing him from calling for backup. The princess's eyes widened. She had sensed the human's presence, but the speed, the precision surprised her. Kale's calm demeanor gave her a strange sense of reassurance. Even as chaos began to unfold around them, the rogue officials stepped forward, activating their hidden devices. The energy pulses from their tools crackled faintly in the air, designed to paralyze anyone nearby. Kale acted instantly, using his own portable field disruptor to neutralize the devices before they could harm the council members. Sparks flew, and a faint hum filled the room as technology met. Technology in a silent clash. Leora moved instinctively behind Kale. She had trained with guards before, learning basic defense and situational awareness, but even her skills could not match the human's anticipation. Kale's eyes scanned the room, calculating trajectories, reaction times, and the safest paths for the princess. "You will not reach her," Kale said quietly, more to himself than to the intruders. The officials hesitated, surprised that someone had anticipated their attack so quickly. They had thought the human would be delayed, distracted, or caught in the open. But Kale's human instincts had read the situation before it fully developed. He moved with a calm, calculated rhythm, deflecting one attack, redirecting another, all without harming anyone unnecessarily. One of the rogue officials lunged toward Leora, hoping to grab her before Kale could react. Kale anticipated the move, stepping between them and using a subtle energy pulse to knock the official off balance. The man stumbled backward, disoriented. Another guard tried to intervene, but Kale's focus was unmatched. He neutralized threats methodically, always staying between danger and the princess. Leora watched, amazed. She had heard of humans' unpredictability, but she had never imagined this level of skill. His movements were precise, controlled, and deliberate. Every action seemed effortless, yet perfectly timed. The guards, initially confused, began to follow Kale's lead. Trusting his instincts more than their own training, the council members whispered anxiously among themselves. "Who is this human?" one asked. "I do not know," another replied. "But he is saving the princess." The rogue officials regrouped, attempting a coordinated strike. Kale anticipated their formation, shifting his position to cut off angles of attack. He moved like a shadow, blending strategy and instinct, neutralizing threats with minimum effort. The guards began to adapt, mirroring his movements and forming a protective circle around the princess. Leora's heart raced, but she remained calm. She trusted her instincts, and they told her that this human strange, alien to her world, yet completely reliable was their only chance. She followed Kale's subtle guidance, stepping only when safe. moving with purpose and awareness. One official tried to retreat to summon reinforcements. Kale intercepted him instantly, blocking the path and disarming him. The man froze, realizing that every move had already been predicted. Kale's human advantage was clear. He could anticipate reactions, read intentions, and act before others fully realized the danger. The guards began to coordinate, following Kale's lead. Their initial hesitation transformed into trust, their training enhanced by his foresight. Together, human and alien moved as one, defensive, efficient, and unstoppable. The rogue officials, realizing their plan had failed, attempted a final desperate move. They activated hidden energy traps near the walls, hoping to trap Kale and the princess. Kale, already aware of the energy signatures, adjusted instantly. He redirected the pulses harmlessly into the walls, neutralizing the threat before anyone could be harmed. The chamber was quiet again, except for the hum of the energy fields and the heavy breathing of the intruders. Kale stood between them and the princess, calm and ready. "It is over," he said simply, his voice steady. The rogue officials froze, their confidence shattered. They had underestimated the human completely. Every step, every reaction, every contingency had been anticipated. The title of unpredictability was not a myth, it was truth. And in this room, the human had proven it. Leora stepped forward, her eyes meeting Kale's. She felt a strange mix of relief and awe. You knew," she whispered. Kale nodded slightly. "I saw what was coming. I acted before it could reach you." Her guards looked at him with newfound respect, their previous doubts replaced by admiration. Kale had not only protected the princess, but had done so with skill and precision that surpassed their own training. The rogue officials, realizing they could not win, surrendered quietly. Kale ensured they were restrained safely, without causing unnecessary harm. The chamber's tension slowly eased, placed by a mixture of relief and astonishment. Leora moved closer to Kale. "I did not expect this," she admitted softly. "You are different." Kale smiled faintly. "Different is not always bad," he replied. "Sometimes it is what saves lives." The guards and council members began to regain composure. Whispers spread among them. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but also capable of foresight and courage. For the first time, many realized that the galaxy had underestimated them. Kale looked around the chamber. Every movement had been calculated, every threat neutralized. The princess was safe, the conspirators restrained, and the guards were now aware that they had an unexpected ally. His mission, at least for now, was complete. Leora's eyes studied him, curious and thoughtful. "You saved me," she said. "I do not know who you are, but I owe you thanks." Kale's expression remained calm. "I am here to ensure the right outcome." "That is enough." The princess nodded slowly, her mind processing what had just happened. Humans were different from her people, yes, but their instincts, courage, and strategy could change outcomes that seemed impossible. She realized that tonight, her world had witnessed something extraordinary. Kale's attention shifted briefly to the guards. They were learning quickly, observing his movements, understanding his instincts. This cooperation between human and alien could become a powerful force if nurtured. Kale understood this as well. But for now, he focused on the immediate task, ensuring the princess's safety and stabilizing the chamber. The night outside remained quiet. The city unaware of the silent clash that had just occurred within the palace walls, Kale stood vigilant, watching, ready to act again if needed. The princess, now aware of the human presence, trusted him at least for the moment. The first wave of danger had passed, but Kale knew there would be more challenges ahead. This was only the beginning. The skills, instincts, and courage of a human had made a difference tonight. And the galaxy would never see such strength the same way again, Leora whispered to herself. Almost in disbelief, a human. And he already knew. Kale, standing silently in the shadows, allowed himself a small smile. Yes, he already knew. And that knowledge had saved a life, proved a point, and reminded the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. The morning sun bathed the palace in a golden light, but the calm was only on the surface. Deep within the city, the rogue faction still had pockets of influence, hidden cells ready to strike at the right moment.
Ow.
Princess Leora stood at the balcony of the central chamber, looking over the city below. Her mind was sharp, alert. She had witnessed the human's skill, his anticipation, and his ability to act before threats reached her. Today, she would fully understand what that meant. Kale moved beside her, calm and observant. He had spent the night mapping the palace, checking energy flows, and coordinating with the guards. Every pathway, every weak point, every hidden communication line had been examined. The city's grid had been secured, but vigilance was necessary. The rogue faction had not been eliminated entirely, only delayed. Your instincts were correct, Kale said quietly. They will try again. But this time, we can predict their moves and prepare before they act. Leora nodded, and we will. I want every guard briefed, every entrance monitored, every energy node secured. No one will catch us unawares again. Kale's eyes scanned the streets below. He could see patterns, subtle signals of hidden activity. They underestimate humans, he said, but that is an advantage we can use. They think unpredictability is weakness. It is not. It is strength. Leora studied him. Strength in instinct, in anticipation, in knowing what comes next. You have shown me that humans are different and powerful. Kale inclined his head slightly. We act before the threat arrives. That is the difference. Suddenly, one of the palace guards approached, bowing respectfully. Your Highness, a message has arrived from the outer districts. It appears the rogue faction is mobilizing again. Leora's eyes narrowed. Prepare the guards. Kale, your guidance will be essential. Lead the strategy. Kale nodded, moving swiftly to the strategy table. He studied the maps of the city, the known locations of rogue operatives, and possible escape routes. His mind worked rapidly, predicting likely moves, calculating timing, and coordinating multiple teams simultaneously. The princess observed silently, trusting his instincts. We move together, she said. I will oversee the palace. You manage the field operations, Kale agreed. Coordination is key. We'll neutralize the threat before they can act. Within the hour, Kale had organized the palace guards into precise units, each with a clear task. Some would secure the main energy nodes, others would patrol the streets and hidden corridors, and a small elite team would intercept any rogue operatives attempting to escape. Every movement was planned, yet flexible enough to adapt to unexpected actions. The rogue faction moved cautiously, unaware that Kale and Leora had anticipated their plan. As they approached the palace outskirts, Kale's teams intercepted them with precision. Guards moved silently, forming barriers, cutting off escape routes. Kale predicted each move, positioning soldiers to neutralize threats before they could react. Leora remained in the palace, coordinating communication, monitoring energy nodes, and guiding the guards. Her instincts, combined with Kale's foresight, created a synergy that left the rogue faction confused and unprepared. The first rogue operative attempted to breach an energy node, but Kale had already anticipated the move. He signaled the guards, and the operative was intercepted before the device could activate. Another tried to escape through a hidden passage. Kale had already stationed soldiers along the route. Blocking the exit silently and efficiently, the rogue faction realized too late that their plans had been predicted. Every move they made was anticipated. Every attempt to strike was countered. Kale had already neutralized the immediate threats, leaving only the leaders of the rogue group to face the human and the princess. Leora stepped into the central chamber. As the leaders were brought in, her eyes were sharp, commanding attention. You underestimated us, she said firmly. You thought your plans were invisible. You thought you could act without consequences. You were wrong. Kale stood beside her, calm and steady. Your movements, your timing, your decisions, they can be predicted if observed carefully. Anticipation is power, and it has saved lives today. The leaders of the rogue faction realized the truth. They had been outmatched not just by guards, but by the humans' ability to see what they could not. Kale had acted before they struck. predicted before they moved, and neutralized without unnecessary harm. Leora studied Kale, her respect growing. You're more than a protector. You're a strategist, a guide, and a force we cannot ignore. Kale's expression remained calm. I am here to ensure outcomes, not to seek recognition. Princess is safe, the palace is secure, and the city's grid is stable. That is enough. The rogue leaders lowered their heads, defeated. Their arrogance, their underestimation of humans, had been their downfall. Kale's skills, combined with Leora's instincts and the palace guard's loyalty, had ensured success. Outside, the city began to awaken. Citizens went about their day, unaware that their safety had been secured by a combination of alien vigilance and human foresight. The rogue faction's influence had been broken, their plans delayed indefinitely. Kale had demonstrated that humans were not to be underestimated. They could act, anticipate, and protect in ways that others could not predict. Leora turned to Kale, her eyes thoughtful. Tonight, you have proven that humans are more than stories, more than myths. You have shown skill, insight, and courage. I trust you. Kale inclined his head slightly. Trust is mutual. You acted with awareness, foresight, and calm. That allowed us to succeed. The palace guards looked on, understanding now that humans were not fragile or reckless. They were capable of strategy, anticipation, and instinctive courage. Kale had changed their perception, teaching them a valuable lesson in the process. Varric approached, nodding respectfully. Your Highness, this human has not only protected the palace but also demonstrated a new way to approach threats. We have learned from him tonight. Leora smiled faintly. Yes, and I hope we continue to learn. Humans are different, yes, but their methods are effective. Kale, your presence has made a difference we cannot ignore. Kale's eyes scanned the city once more, ensuring no lingering threats remained. The immediate danger is neutralized, but vigilance is always necessary. The rogue faction may regroup. Preparedness is key. Leora nodded. Then we remain ready. Together, human and varial. Your guidance, your instincts, they will be valuable. Kale allowed himself a small smile. Then we move forward. Anticipation, strategy, and action.
Wow.
That is how we prevent disaster before it begins. As the day progressed, the princess, Kale, and the palace guards worked together to strengthen the city's defenses, secure communication networks, and reinforce energy nodes. Each step was coordinated with care, every potential risk evaluated. The rogue faction's leaders were placed under secure watch, their plans analyzed for further threats. The palace now functioned as a symbol of resilience and cooperation. The human presence had introduced a new perspective, one that combined instinct, foresight, and careful planning. Leora realized that this alliance could change the way her people approached security, strategy, and trust. By nightfall, the palace was fully secure, the city stable, and the rogue faction neutralized. The princess and Kale stood together on the balcony once more. Looking at the stars above, "You have changed everything tonight," Leora said softly. "The galaxy underestimates humans, but I no longer do. You are remarkable." Kale's expression remained calm, but there was a faint hint of satisfaction. "We acted together. Your instincts, combined with preparation and foresight, ensured success. That is what matters." Leora smiled. "Then we will continue. Humans, aliens, together we will face what comes next, prepared and united." Kale nodded. "Anticipation, strategy, and action. That is how we survive and thrive." The city below sparkled with life, unaware of the silent battles fought and won. The rogue faction had been defeated, their plans delayed, and their arrogance exposed. The palace stood as a beacon of vigilance, intelligence, and cooperation. For the first time, Princess Leora fully understood the unique abilities of humans, their instincts, their courage, and their ability to act before danger reached them. Kale had proven it tonight. Human had already known, already acted, and already ensured victory, and so the unexpected alliance between a human and an alien princess was sealed not by ceremony, but by trust, mutual respect, and the shared understanding that together they could face anything the galaxy might throw at them. The night was calm now, but both knew the galaxy was vast, and threats would come again. Yet, with Kale by her side, Leora felt prepared. The human had already proven himself. And for the first time, she realized that humans were not merely unpredictable, they were indispensable.